All right, I'd like to call to order the Marvin Day Planning Subcommittee meeting Tuesday, June 6th at 11:04. We have full quorum.
No, missing Deb.
Oh, sorry, we're missing Deb. Sorry, Deb. But we have staff here as well, so I need a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. All's in favor? Aye. Need a motion to adopt the previous minutes? So moved. All's in favor? Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Next up is items of discussion, Marvin 2023 debrief. Go.
Okay, welcome everybody, welcome. Thank you everyone for your hard work at Marvin Day. I keep telling everybody it was a group effort, it was a labor of love and tears. But we made it, we pulled it off, and this is what I told the PRG board in the last meeting, and I will tell you guys as well, happy council, happy staff. So I have talked to every council member, and I believe everyone is fairly happy with Marvin Day overall. So congrats to everyone. That being said, there were hits and misses again, of course. There's probably going to be every year as we continue to try new things and massage things and try to find the sweet spot. There were things that worked, things that didn't. There were new components we added. There are components that we probably need to consider cutting. We did just get a lot of feedback from the PRG board members that were on site. I'm probably not going to go over it because I think as we are giving our feedback, a lot of it will be duplicated, but I will put it all on, I'll type it all up and put it on paper so we have it as we start planning next year. But I'd kind of just like to maybe go around, I guess. Maybe we can start with the committee members since we had the most sort of knowledge of what everything was supposed to look like and how everything was supposed to happen. And give your thoughts and feedback, and then we can open it up to staff for their thoughts and feedback because each of us was obviously serving in different areas and couldn't be everywhere at once. So is everyone okay with sort of that type of action plan for the next time that we're together? Kim, do you want to go first?
Sure. Now I know why Christina likes sitting at this spot too.
She can lean.
She can do the lean over.
She says you must like sitting there
I
so you
know
can
why
lean.
you like sitting here,
Deb's
because
here.
you can do the lean here.
Hi.
Okay. Oh, and
Deb,
up here,
Deb just
up
got
here.
here.
Oh, you fancy
come
today,
on.
girl.
Just make sure you turn on the microphone whenever you're speaking.
So I cannot say this enough, and if I haven't said it to everybody, I'll say it again. This could not have been more well executed by staff, committee members, board members, our volunteers. Everybody did an amazing job. I am a little disappointed in the number of people that we had, especially at the end of the day, but I don't think that we, as the village, could have done a better job of executing the plan that was put in place. So great job to everybody for that. Stuff that I was in charge of, the tinsel, not the tinsel, I wasn't the tinsel, I was the face paint and the balloon guy. They were both busy all day. I think it was a huge hit with the kids. They did a great job. Mr. Marvel, the balloon animal man, absolutely wants to come back next year. He said it multiple times. I have his card, like he absolutely wants to come back. I'm assuming the face paint people did as well. They were super busy. The dunk tank, I think, was great. I think that was a lot of fun. I think maybe, and we need to put it in a different spot to get some more action, although I probably got dunked 50 times at least. So I thought that was really, really good. The volunteers that I got through the Beta Club and the Boy Scouts, I think they did a great job. I think the kids were super respectful that were there on Saturday, and I checked with Matt, and he said the Boy Scouts did a great job cleaning up on Sunday. So I was super, super happy with the people that showed up for the volunteer. I know we had some friends from Banks volunteer as well. So we appreciate that, and I think that made a big difference. I know there were times where we didn't really have a lot for them to do, but I would much rather have had more volunteers and nothing for them to do than need them and not have stuff to do. So I think that the stuff at Firethorn was not very well attended, and I don't think that Firethorn did a very good job of promoting it on their end. I saw one little line item that said June 3rd, Marvin Day, click here, and the click here was our calendar. They did not make it a big deal. They did not make it a big deal to the membership to come out and participate. So I was disappointed in their lack of promotion of the open house, because I think it was an open house for members, but I also think it was an open house to get new members, and I don't think that they did a good job at that at all. And from what Jen said, they probably only had 20 people roll through the art exhibit. So I was disappointed in that. And I think they probably could have done a lot better job of promoting that. As many emails and text messages that they send out about events, they didn't promote it at all. And it can't just be the village promoting stuff. I think, we need to adjust and address how we're promoting it, and we talked about it earlier. But for the most part, it just cannot be the village. It's got to be every vendor that's out there promoting it, because that's the way that it's going to grow. So I think that was all of my things. But again, for the most part, I thought it was a great day. I was happy with, the things that the village did and how we executed. I just wish more people would have come out and taken advantage of it.
Jen, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so just to reiterate what we talked about in the board meeting earlier, but for the benefit of those people who weren't here for that, following on Ken's comments, so I was entirely at Firethorn that day. The things that were great about the art exhibit is I did manage to put together a really cool array of different artists, and I think the quality of what was there was fantastic, and on paper, everything about it looked really good. I mean, all of the artists were excited going into it because the space was very beautiful. It was a nice place to vend in. It was air conditioned, which was nice for the older vendors in particular, but just in general for all of us. But then, things sort of officially opened up and nobody came through. And it was not just the art exhibit. It was the entire Firethorn thing. They had a DJ, they had set out stuff for cornhole, they had 3 food vendors that I'm sure were very, very disappointed as well in the turnout. The DJ was just standing there playing all day, and there was absolutely nobody on the lawn taking advantage of any of that stuff. The mimosas were even free and in the lobby, and if you'd have just said free mimosas, you'd have probably been bum rushed. But they did not have anybody taking advantage of that. And I think it must have come down to marketing, because of the people who I know who are members or know members, they were like, yeah, nobody is here today. I mean, even if you looked at it on Google Maps, it said less busy than usual, right? So even what was normal for a weekend at Firethorn, it didn't even have that. I don't know if it was partly because Memorial Day weekend, the weekend before, had been a washout, and so everybody was catching up after that. But I actually thought maybe that would help us, because that having been a washout, people maybe were looking for something to do to make up for it. Clearly, whatever they were doing was not at Firethorn. So in talking to, obviously, I had some very awkward moments among the artists there, as we're all standing around twiddling our thumbs going, is this going to pick up? I did have some extensive discussions with them. A few of the local ones who have participated in the past years are getting a little reluctant maybe to participate in the future. So Lambeth has participated. She did the art and garden tours, and then she was there at Firethorn this year. Her concern is that art should be a separate thing. And that was seconded by a local artist who was at the park last year as part of the barn stuff. And she felt that there was so much focus on kid things that there really was no market for art. At some point, she just started handing out bits of clay for the kids to play with and kind of gave up on sales. Now, her work product is probably not geared for, a kid-type event. Neither would Lambeth be. She would not be interested in participating in an event that is so kid-focused as what was going on at Efford. So I think what we're sort of seeing is a couple of things. And what I was telling them was that, first off, I never really anticipated that the art itself would be the draw at Firethorn and would be the thing to attract people there. Really, my anticipation was an opportunity for local artists to take advantage of a crowd that would already be there. And because that crowd didn't materialize, obviously we have some soul searching to do about what that means. Is there not a market for art events at all? Would they be better separately focused? Because even if we do put them in the general thing, what is the identity of the concentrated stuff? Is it kid entertainment? I mean, so we have sort of an identity crisis to figure out what this event needs to be in general. Are we really mostly family focused? Are we a vending kind of thing? I was describing to Kim, some festivals in some places I've lived in the past. One of them is the Half Moon Bay Pumpkin Festival. It's an enormous thing. It draws hundreds of thousands of people, and it's a 2-hour drive to get to it, even if you live like 10 miles away because of the one road in and out of town. And it is just a vending fair. They close down Main Street, and it is a vending fair. You go to shop, you get a little commemorative glass, you go to wine vendors and fill up, and you just walk the street, and you see all the crazy things for sale. And you go to see the biggest pumpkin in the country weighed. And that's all it is. So, are we having a vendor fair, or are we having a community entertainment fair? What is our purpose? And then I think that'll drive our decisions going forward. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. Okay, so some of the things that I expressed to the last board that met is I do think that when you are attempting to start a new annual festival like this, I do think there's like a 3 to 5 year steep learning curve. So I want everybody to just kind of stay hopeful and positive. I think it takes a few years of trying different things to kind of find what works. Waxhaw, I have seen them take years and years to land on what they think works. I've watched their Autumn Treasures Festival go from a weekend-long event to a one-day event because they probably realized this is insanity, and so in various things that they've done that have changed over the years. So I think it's good to continue to just try new things and test things out. Some things are going to work, some things are not. I don't ever consider any of these a failure because the things that we may say, well, that didn't really work, we're still learning from it, and that's valuable data for us to kind of use as we move forward for the next stuff. So me personally, I'm just going to quickly go through like each event and give like a tiny comment on it. I do think that Tyler and the subcommittee, I'm assuming, first off, my recommendation is we have another subcommittee for 2024. This is not a one-man job. It never will be. That's just my recommendation. I would love to see more volunteers like Deb, too, so that we don't have like the same people in working groups and the subcommittee and staff kind of all doing it. I know that's hard to get, though. Deb is a gem. But if we can start sooner, kind of reaching out into the community for that kind of help, I think it could be great. But so I do think we should have a subcommittee. That's my first feedback. The second, I think after 2 years of attempting to incorporate a village hall meet and greet, I think even council would probably second this, that I don't know that that's a component that really is a draw for Marvin Day and is worth the time, energy, or money that goes into it. We've tried doing it on Marvin Day itself, and it kind of pulled council away from the activities at the park. We tried moving it to the Friday night before, and both were poorly attended. So
Yes, I would agree with that, especially when some council members didn't even know that they were supposed to be here.
that's okay. I had your portion of the charcuterie and the stuff that was here, so. So that's something I probably wouldn't recommend for next year. And then moving on to the 5K in the morning. The 5K was a pretty great event, in my opinion. I think the addition of the DJ made it a totally different experience. People were dancing, it was fun, the mascots were dancing. Having the Publix mascot there was awesome. We had the owl there. I think having the vendors set up outside instead of in the gym was a totally different experience for the people in attendance. They could stay outside. The weather was gorgeous. The DJ did a great job of promoting the vendors and asking people to stop by all of their booths and letting everyone know that they were giving away things. They had prizes and tchotchkes and freebies. And from what I saw, those tables were kind of busy most of the morning. I know Deb was disappointed because she had about 5 vendors that didn't show up at all, which that had happened last year. We only had 1. But I think, again, I think we did the best that we could with the staff lack of time and resources that we had. I'm still happy with it. Nobody there knew that there were supposed to be 5 more vendors. I think the number that we had was fine. Could we have had more, and would that have been great too? Yeah. Brew La La seemed to be great, the coffee truck. I don't know that they had a ton of sales. I didn't hear any complaints from them. They were just great, didn't hold us to a minimum, never complained, never said, can I leave early? They were just awesome. I would love to have them back. The guy is just really, really cool. He tried to give me coffee on the house. I was like, absolutely not. I insist on paying. But he was a cool guy. We didn't quite see the jump in registrations for the 5K from this year to last year, but I really feel that for next year's 5K, well, I have 2 big thoughts, and one might be popular and one might not. I think I would really like to see us partner with the cross-country teams at Marvin, Cuddy, and Weddington, and also the track teams, to put the word out to these running families to come out and run. Even if it's mostly teenagers coming out to run, if they bring mom or dad with them and encourage mom or dad to come do a 5K, I think it could be cool. But even if we don't get a lot of signups from them, I still think they can, a lot of those cross-country and track kids and families, they're plugged into running groups in the area, so I think they could help us really promote it and get attendance up. The second thing is, I think we do need to tweak the age groups for the 5K, because it was basically 0 to 14, so that meant our little 7 and 8-year-olds were competing with 14-year-olds for medals, and I just feel like that doesn't really work. So we think a 9 and under, and maybe a 10 through 14 would be a better and more fair kind of breakup. Maybe not, maybe even 9 to 12 and 13 and up is a category, but whatever. I'll let the 5K company kind of deal with that, but they were open to that feedback as well, and they agreed that we could improve upon that to make it a little bit easier, because the 0 to 14 category was so huge because it was such a big category. And then also the feedback we got from some runners was to have a 70 to 79 category, because right now we don't. It's just 60, I think it's 60 to 69 and then 70 up. So whatever, we'll see. Some of it might work, some of it might not, but I don't know. Like I said, not every suggestion is one we'll take, but it also doesn't cost us anything to do a top 3 for 70 to 79. So I think it was kind of cool that we even had some of them out there running. I want to say it's 70 to 100 is the next category, so we'll see. It's just something funny. My other thought on the 5K, and this one might not be popular, but I'm gonna say it. Based on what I would like to propose and envision for Marvin Day 2024, I think I would like to suggest that our Marvin annual 5K be a separate event from Marvin Day. I know that's probably shocking. But I think the fact that it's at a separate location and it's so early in the morning, I think I would love us to do an annual 5K every year, just not sure that I love it being part of the Marvin Day component. And I can elaborate more on that later, but that's just one thought that I have. I think it's a long day for council. It's a long day for staff to have to start at 7:30 to be at the 5K, and then also to have to be at the activities later that night. It's a long day. And I think it's a long day for residents. So that's that. But other than that, I thought the 5K was great. Does anyone have any feedback about the actual 5K this past year?
You told me that the fun run was did not have a lot of participation. Should we
It
think
did
about
not.
getting rid of the fun run portion?
My honest opinion, make the fun run free. I mean, why not? It doesn't cost much to make those little medals. Maybe the fun run kids don't get a t-shirt because that is costly, but those medals are cheap, and I would say bring your kids for the fun run and they can run for free. It promotes exercise with the kids. It gets the parents there. It gets more attendance. It's a free event on a Saturday morning to tire your children out and give them a good nap later. So that's what I would do personally, because paying $15 per kid just didn't seem to be something that was working. I didn't think it was a bad price at all, and I think for what you got for it, it was fair, but it didn't seem to work. So, are we moving on from the elementary school, or anybody have any thoughts? Okay. As far as Marvin Eford
Hold on.
Park.
How was the
sorry.
blood drive?
Oh, the blood drive was good. So they had set a very modest goal of getting just 10 units of blood. They thanks to my donation and the mayor did a double donation, they ended up with 11. So they were happy. They're like, we met our goal. And I said, you have the mayor to thank for that. And they were, because he gave a double unit. And so they were like,
what was wrong with him?
yeah.
That makes sense.
That's why they told him the one drink would feel like 4, because he gave double. But yeah, they're happy. So. And they want to come back, which is good. And the school was happy. So Dr. Spencer's a huge supporter of Marvin Day, and he was happy again. So it worked out well. There are some things I have to tweak with the 5K company that they need to improve upon, but that's really not something that the committee needs to hear about. It's just minor tweaks to make things a little bit better. So I'm going to debrief with them separately.
Yeah, thank you. So they literally did not close the streets in Marvin Creek. There were people driving all over Marvin Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some lady's like, well, can I go? And I'm like, there are people running in the street. Like, no.
Yeah. So we did not close the streets in Marvin Creek, and it's my understanding that we can't. Are we?
Well, then why do we even have the sheriffs there? Because
Because the street wasn't closed. The sheriffs were supposed to be there just for help traffic and safety concerns. And we did announce it.
I did more than they did.
Yeah, we did announce it within Marvin Creek, like, please stay off the roads for each street would be not affected for more than 20 minutes, but we thought we did a good enough job of kind of like announcing the 5K over and over again in the resident newsletter. I did contact the HOA president, but to his point, he's like, you guys probably should have contacted us a long time ago, and he was right. It was totally fair. I told him, like, the Monday before, like, hey, heads up, tell your residents we're having the 5K this weekend, just in case they don't remember. And he was kind of like, that doesn't give me a lot of time, so.
Well, we either need to put stuff in people's mailboxes and just tell them, please do not, like, tell your friends don't come over. If you need to leave, you need to be out by this point, and then not have the deputies there. Because literally, I know we paid for them, and they did nothing, like nothing. I was the one that they were, like, I was the one talking to everybody on my corner as people were trying to leave and come in.
So I'll just say that DOT's probably not going to allow us to have a rolling closure is probably what they approve.
Until we own our roads?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
So that's probably why they did that. I was looking for the paperwork. I can't find it right now, but that's more than likely. We can look at that in
well, then
more
we
detail.
just don't need to have the deputies there.
They may not approve it. The DOT may not approve it. I'll have to look at that
Okay,
in more
all
detail.
right, well,
I'll look at it.
because we had to pay for something that literally they were sitting in their truck the whole time, and I was the one that was answering questions and directing people and telling people whether they could go or not.
We can reassess the law enforcement assignments next year.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on to the park, I will say the good feedback we've gotten had to do with the animal exhibits were well received. The marsh was well received. I think the face painting, balloon animals, all the kids' activities were well received. It was well attended during the day with all the kids' stuff. We all know that we attempted to avoid the lull in the late afternoon, early evening by having that first band start at 5:30. That didn't really work. We still had that lull. We still had a lot of people leave. I think some of it had to do with the announcement that the shuttles were going to take an hour break and stop running. I did not know that was going to happen, so I think a lot of people probably thought, well, shoot, I don't want to be stuck here for an hour with no shuttle. I better go now. I don't know I don't know why I wasn't aware that was going to happen, and it may or may not have affected, people might have left anyway because it was a long, hot day, but I would love to hear from those of you that were at Marvin Eford who haven't shared already what you noticed that you haven't already heard us touch upon at all at the park. I'm going to shut up and just take notes.
Well, can I ask a real quick question about that shuttle break? Was that because there was nobody shuttling, or is that because of like a mandatory work break?
Mandatory work break for hydration and food for the drivers.
Yeah, so I can speak on the shuttles. Once again, it's kind of a learning experience with this, but ultimately, yeah, like they legally, I think in the contract, but it's also like a state statute, like if they're working more than 8 hours, they have to be given like a 30, 45-minute type break, something like that. They were running pretty consistently from 10:30 till about 2:30. I will say both drivers were pretty good. There was one that I think wanted to break more than the other. But that's kind of why it was my understanding that we did kind of have a little bit of gap and stuff until like the concert starting at 5 and events kind of wrapping up at the park for the most part. That's why the decision was like, hey, let's just make this announcement, because I didn't want people to be there and then be waiting at the shuttle and vice versa. I think kind of one of the learning points from that is next year we'll have 3 or 4 shuttles. They'll always be running where they can kind of break within. As well as potentially the location, just having one location instead of 2. I think that kind of got kind of confusing. I mean, I think at the end of the day, more people actually did park at the elementary school than the high school for the day portion. Now for the night portion, I'm not really sure. I know that was kind of, like I said, low on numbers, but that's kind of the one big feedback that I saw, as well as the potential drop-off location. I think it was just kind of a cluster, especially early in the morning with vendors coming in and shuttles running. All of that is just kind of alleviating any type of congestion or traffic jam there off of Newtown and getting into the park. You want to keep going?
Well, I do have a quick question. The PRG board was asking if there was any data collected by the drivers as to how many people they think they actually shuttled during Marvin Day. Is there any way to maybe message and ask if they have any feedback for us?
I can ask.
I know it's a long shot.
I'll say pretty
but-
much every time I went up and looked, I think each bus held about 16 to 18 people. Pretty much, especially during that day portion, they were full every single time that I went up there for the most part, if not like 3/4 full. So I think we had, it was, like I said, always kind of constant and revolving. I told the drivers to kind of wait 5 minutes at the schools, allow for people to get there and so on. So I think, once again, like next year, if we kind of have, I was talking with Jamie yesterday about this, like if we have 3 or 4, you always kind of have 2 ready to go at the school, 1 kind of in rotation, and then 1 potentially taking a break if need be. But I think the more opportunity, because you have more opportunity that you have a constant shuttle showing up every 5 minutes, if not less. I think it's better, because I feel like some people could potentially waited at the shuttle stop, potentially maybe 10, 15 minutes, then left. So.
I think the other thing I'll comment to your point was the vendors were told that they could start setting up as early as 9 and that they needed to be completely set up by 11 when the festivities started. I think if we do something like that again, I will ask them, Tyler, should ask them to be set up like probably 30 to 45 minutes before anything is going to start. That way they have time, they're in place, their cars are moved. And because I had a vendor show up at 10:30 for an event that started at 11, and I was like, that's late. So we can execute that a little bit better next time, so it's less chaotic at the same time.
I have a bit of feedback on the shuttles. My husband was working the front gate with the law enforcement officers. He said a lot of people that he had to turn away because they tried to park at the park just said never mind and decided to go home. So some people, I think you're going to lose people on the shuttles in general. But another thing that we heard was that people weren't going to shuttle twice. At 3:30, when those shuttles were going to take a break, people's kids were tired. They went home. They did not want to come back out for the evening portion. Speaking on the vendors, it was a bit chaotic in the morning. Personally felt a little overwhelmed because I had vendors everywhere. No one was parking where they were supposed to. I had people pulling up to the barn, trying to unload, trying to squeeze between cars. We also needed some more signage to direct people where to go park, because once they got directions from the front, they just kind of parked wherever. But yeah, so that would be my recommendations.
Thank you.
And limit the amount of vendor parking.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I feel like there were multiple vendors that had, I mean.
It wasn't the amount, it was the number of cars.
Yeah, number of cars, like, it was like, they might have had 6 people in the booth, and all 6 people drove separately. And, I mean, I had a lady that showed up that was supposed to be here for the PM session at 10:30. We asked her to go park at the school. She pulled in, we asked her to turn around, she pulled in, I think she just went and parked somewhere. I don't know where, I just never saw her come back. So, but,
Maybe if we do parking passes again, if we have to do a shuttle situation, we mail those like a week beforehand, so that way we know how many passes are out there.
And it will force them to carpool, because each vendor gets, 1 or 2 passes, and that's it.
Can I make a suggestion, if you don't mind? Just so we can streamline this a little bit. Can we try to focus on some of the things we're going to change and what we can hash out, and some of the things that we're going to do for next year? We can kind of leave that to the subcommittee to decide these things like parking passes, and if we can just focus on that so we can move through some stuff, that would be great.
So everybody give feedback on the changes they want to recommend for next year.
Or if we want to hash out some of the changes.
Okay. Hunter, do you have any additional changes to recommend other than what you've already said?
I mean, I have a few. I mean, these are things that I kind of jotted down throughout the day. And I'm just going to kind of throw it out there and we kind of discuss. One thought was like potentially having music all day. I think that's another way to kind of keep people engaged at the park, keep it consistent where we don't have a lull. Another one's kind of site plan revisions, just of locations of certain things. If it's the shuttle stop, if it's the location of the food trucks, if it's the location of the beer and wine. Another one.
Hold on, so you think we should make some changes? What are your suggestions? Like, tell me what you think would work better. I know what the shuttle stop would be in front of the barn, like have everybody roll down, roll through, drop off, go out. Where do you think beer and wine should go?
I think beer and wine, based off of if we have another wine tin or even with OMB's like truck like that, I think the path there at the back of the lawn, I feel like there's that greenway path right before that drop. I feel like it could have set up.
Where London was looking for the dog poo, that path.
There's the walking path at the back of that lawn. But it's flat. I just feel like that could have been a pretty good location for that. Once again, certain things like with food trucks, I don't know if we need better signage or kind of where they're at. I was potentially thinking maybe put them in the front lot, because then they're closer to where the kids' games or the inflatables and vendors are at. Because that was the one other thing I was talking to some vendors about, is that especially during the night portion, they were separated. I mean, I know they all left, but that was kind of the one thing, trying to once again incorporate it and making the whole site kind of flow throughout the day to where people see it all. Because I feel like that's potentially what hurt some of the food trucks business, was that it's a logical place to put them there in the back, but if they're up here at the barn, are they going to walk back there to get food?
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard a couple of suggestions. One, Friday night, since we're not going to do the meet and greet, do the concert and fireworks Friday night. Have the 5K in the morning, move right over into the park and have the park wrapping up at 3. Now, if we don't want to do the 5K as a Marvin Day event and we want to have that totally separate, maybe we start the park events at like 3, and then you have all the stuff and you roll right into the concert and the fireworks. I think that is going to be our biggest, like, let's decide what we want to do.
Yeah.
I would really like, Jen and I were talking, and she's like, well, maybe if you do the 5K, you just keep everything at the elementary school. I know it's a pain because I know we don't have great parking situation. I don't think the shuttles were that bad, especially if you condense everything even more than we've already condensed it. You have one location, you have more shuttles, you have them running continuously, you don't let them take a break all at the same time. So I think the decision needs to, because I would really like to keep it at the park. I think the park worked out well. I think, people were like, oh my God, I didn't even know this was back here. It's so beautiful. Like, I think the park worked out well. I think we need to, our big decision is what does the weekend, like, what does that Saturday look like? And either Friday night, Saturday morning into the early afternoon and it's finished, or you do the 5K totally separate, you start later in the day and you keep it and you roll it and you have the concert that night.
Having had Jill's suggestion of separating the 5K from this event completely and having it as its own event, that dovetailed nicely to our discussion, and that sounds like, at least to me,
Yeah.
an optimal solution.
Because I think if you do a
Because I
Friday.
was saying we need to
Yeah.
compress the event,
You
but then
did.
the 5K was the outlier.
I don't even want to do multi-day personally. My biggest suggestion would be that Marvin Day starts at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and it goes until 9:30. And nobody really has to leave at all. Like, the inflatables, the face painters, the balloon people were all ready and in place by 3. Food trucks are there. They're ready to go by 3. That's when it starts, and it goes right in until the fireworks. I think.
Then if you don't have 2 days, you don't have to have 2 days of shuttles. You can do one day.
Correct.
Everybody's at the high school. You park there. It starts at 2:33, and then
And then it's within a reasonable time frame that people who do want to attend all of this stuff have the
Right.
stamina to. And people with kids who don't necessarily want to stay for the concert, they've been there for the fun stuff, they can leave.
I think it's easier on staff. I think it's easier on
I agree.
families, on council, on everybody involved. But I also think it's easier on the residents, because I think a lot of those parents would have loved to have chilled out and had a beer and watched a concert and fireworks. But realistically, they're like, my kid was here at noon because they wanted to meet Mickey. I can't stay until 9 o'clock to have a beer and watch fireworks. It's not in the cards for me. So I think instead of having to market to 2 audiences, the families for the day and the adults for night, you can find a hybrid where you catch both audiences if you just condense it and make it a more reasonable window. I don't think having it start at 7:30 in the morning and go till 9:30 at night is the best going forward. My personal suggestion also, I'm not opposed to the park again, but I would really like to relocate back to the school. I wish we can get Marvin Ridge to let us pick a date, even if it has to be April or March, whatever. I would love to find a date where we can have it at Marvin Ridge. We can utilize the stadium for the concert. We can still have it start in the evening with all of the activities, but you'd have parking on site. It would alleviate the cost and frustration of shuttles for everybody. And if Marvin Ridge is not willing to play ball, which they usually don't, then I feel like we could utilize Marvin Elementary School. They've got that back field that's huge. It's very similar to the field that we had our concert on at Marvin Eford. We've got plenty of parking. They are always willing to work with us, and they're willing to donate the space. So
they do not have plenty of parking there.
they've got way more, but we also that would require us to still utilize shuttles, and we would probably reach out to Firethorn and say, hey, can we have a shuttle stop in Firethorn? As long as they're not having their event the same day.
You're never going to get them to agree to a shuttle stop over there.
At Firethorn?
No, because first of all, the parking lots, people are parking all over the streets for golf days. There's too much stuff going on over there.
That's fine.
especially
That's
as
just
the-
one idea. But
No,
the
I
goal
know.
is to reach out to communities and say, hey, we'd like to have a shuttle stop for overflow. Then if we only need overflow shuttles instead of everyone who wants to come to the event needs a shuttle, then I just think that might help a little bit as well. But, I mean, that's really for the next year's committee to kind of bounce around, but those are the changes I would like to see is, can we have it at the school, whichever school will let us, and then can we arrange some overflow parking if the parking gets full? That's my suggestion. And have it start at 3 o'clock and go maybe through 9. I think that could be a sweet spot for this event moving forward, if the 5K is a different day.
I'm totally in favor of the 5K being a separate draw because it's a totally separate demographic. People come for the 5K, go do their own thing. Like, they're runners, they do that. That's its own event. And then condensing it, I think, is the perfect solution. Then it's just a matter of figuring out where that happens. I can see both sides of the argument for effort
Same, yeah.
and the schools, whichever one. So that'll just have to get worked out, I guess, on availability. And although I would not be opposed to moving it to April if that is helpful.
I mean,
End of it,
there's always the
April.
challenge of prom and spring break, but, you know, I
Yeah,
was
but if
talking
it's
about
the
this
end
with
of
a friend
April,
the other
you're
day.
outside of Easter in any calendar configuration. If it's
yeah.
like then you're just working around like Earth Day and Arbor Day, that kind of stuff, but those are not vacation type holidays.
But then if you're trying to get the schools, you've got sports, you're never, you don't, they don't set their, what do they need the high school track stuff for until later on.
Right.
And then we're like, well, where are we having it? What are we doing?
Yeah. No,
I mean,
know.
I don't
No, I
know.
know, that's one of the things very much in favor of using the park is that it's under our
Yeah.
control.
That's why I suggested the elementary school, and I could
They don't have a
see a shuttle stop at Sandy Ridge, and we encourage people that live in the chimneys to get on the shuttle to come for the festivities, and just utilize other locations. And we could even though Marvin Ridge won't let us have the track, they will sometimes let us have the parking lot. So there's some things to kick around and consider trying that's maybe a hybrid of what we did year 1 and year 2.
I'm just not sure if we're trying to get away from the shuttle thing, why don't we just have it at the park versus the elementary school? Because you're still gonna have to have a shuttle service. And, if people want to pay for parking at the park, you can have some VIP parking. You can pay for it. You can sign up for parking at the park. If you don't want to take a shuttle, I'll take your money. Firethorn's charging $150 for VIP parking for their 4th of July fireworks show.
You can come park on Saddle for free.
I'll come
We
park.
have a great view,
I will charge you $50 from my house and drive you across the street.
right?
Does anyone else have any strong opinions on recommended changes? Anything that you really don't think we should do again next year, or that needs a change?
I've got 2 more.
Okay.
If we do it at the park, I would recommend potentially us renting some type of bleachers or something. I think just providing, even though, yes, like people bringing chairs, so on, but once again, if we're utilizing shuttles, that takes up space. I think if you provide some seating with a mix of people bringing their own stuff, that's another thing to look into. The final thing that I had was vendor promotions, like us promoting the vendors through our social media blast, as well as them promoting the event through their social media. Like, if it's, Jones Homes, if it's like, hey, come see us at Marvin Day, and we'll say the same thing, like, hey, come check out the Jones Homes stand at Marvin Day this Saturday, whatever.
It's got to be more.
Yeah.
And it's got to be both ways. It
Yep.
can't just be us promoting stuff. It's got to be the vendors promoting them being at Marvin Day. I agree.
I have a hybrid suggestion for that. So when I do, like, for example, bridal expos and stuff like that, they obviously do the marketing for the expo. But one of the things that they do is they make,
A social
in advance
graphic,
of it,
yeah.
they solicit vendors to commit to raffles and sweepstakes. And so in advance of the event, the attendees can see who's going to be giving away stuff and what they're giving away.
Yeah.
And so you can use that as a marketing device, because then not just on site as a like, oh, you've already arrived, and oh, hey, I want to swing by this booth. So that's helpful for the booth people to even have just a giveaway on site. But if we have any vendors who are giving away something fun, somebody might say, oh, hey, I want to go grab that. And then that's an extra marketing thing, both for the vendor to promote and for us to include in our promotions, so.
I've also seen like a custom graphic that says like, I'm a vendor for Marvin Day 2024, that
Yeah.
you can, like a social media graphic you can give to a vendor that they can put like a button on their website or they can post it on social.
Yep.
And I did see some of our vendors posting like, hey, come see me at Marvin Day. I did see them promoting themselves and hence Marvin Day at the same time, but I do agree that there could be a stronger cross-promotion in place as we continue to move forward.
I wanted to say a couple things, but I wanted to wait until everyone spoke. Am I good to talk? Y'all good? One of the things that, there's a couple of struggles that I think we will have in going into next year, and that's primarily the food truck sales and some of the vendor sales, and they see that they're low. I think we're going to struggle with them coming back next year, and I think y'all have discussed that, whether it be food, beer, alcohol. We know that we had a lot of issues getting the alcohol to start with. So a couple of things that I just wanted to throw out, and these are just kind of long-term thoughts. But while we've got two council members sitting here, I think that we kind of need to take a step back and fundamentally think about what Marvin Day is about. Is it about attracting and doing something for Marvin residents, or is it about attracting the global region, basically? And if that's the, if we make a decision on that, maybe we can kind of backtrack a little bit further on some changes that we can put into place. One of the suggestions or thoughts that I had was doing a month-long event instead of a day event, where we had like a concert series at the park, and we could end the final of the series with the fireworks show, and that could be the actual Marvin Day. We could do some of the little, hey, we're going to have a band on this Friday, and we're going to have face painting and hair tinsel. Next Friday, it's going to be arts. The next Friday, it's going to be whatever, whatever the case may be. And I'm just throwing that out as a suggestion, not looking for an answer, just food for thought. But I do think that we're going to struggle immensely in the future with getting vendors to come if they're not meeting their sales quotas, if we're not willing to pay for it. So that's just my opinion, my food for thought. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I think another reason to consider condensing Marvin Day to a shorter period is it alleviates the burden on the food trucks to have to prepare food for a 10-hour day, only to have to throw so much of it away because of poor sales. Whereas if it's a shorter time window, it's less time for them to pay their staff, but it's also less food they have to prepare, in theory, because they're not trying to be prepared for a 10-hour day of sales.
Do we know how they did? I mean, obviously, some people left early, but did they meet what we would have had to have paid them?
Because I didn't offer minimums to any of them, I didn't have conversations on what their expectations for sales were. I do know that Thrasher Dogs had very poor sales. She was like, I'm losing money today, because they had prepared so much food since they were planning on being there all day. And then King of Fire, I don't think their sales were great. I don't think they were dismal, but they had a truck that was at another event that was slammed. And he's like, at this point, it's more lucrative for me to go help my other truck than stay here. The sales just aren't enough.
Well, I mean, it was Indian Trail, right? I mean, they have 40,000 residents. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't compete with that.
I know.
I had a conversation personally with him and OMB and the Lobster, and none of them met
Well,
their
the
expectations.
Lobster got there at 4 something and left at, I mean, he was wrapped up by like 7.
7, which I thought was weird because at one point he was the only food truck left, and every person I saw coming to the lawn had a lobster bag. So when Hunter called and said he wanted to leave due to poor sales, I was like, he's the only sales, and we're barely getting started. But my thing is, I'm not here to babysit food trucks. Like, I understand it might be a challenge to get them to come back. Next year, I may have to agree to minimums, but I think if we have a shorter window and maybe fewer trucks, that might hopefully that solves that problem. Again, it's massaging it. Like, if you have fewer trucks and then you have a better turnout, then you run the risk that there's long lines and people are waiting 40 minutes for a pizza. But it's like every problem that we potentially solve creates a new problem to solve, and it's just one that you continue to kind of learn and massage until you land on the sweet spot.
In terms of, just to put it in perspective, in terms of sales, Bob actually called me yesterday that he had a conversation with the Bundt Cakes folks. They had called him, and he had just kind of asked some information from them. They went to the same event. He said that the lady told him that they sold 80 Bundt Cakes at Marvin Day, and he was thinking that was good. Then the lady told him that they sold what equated to 6,400 cakes at Indian Trail. Yeah.
I mean, we cannot compete with
Yeah.
that. We will never be able to compete with that. I don't think we want to compete with that.
Right.
And our vendors who we're inviting to come to do these things, we need to level set their expectations.
Well, and
Because we are not Indian Trail.
And that's why I think that we need to fundamentally look at what our intent is, because I get it from a business side of things. If you're gonna have more people at an event, that's where I'm gonna be from a business model. So I don't know if it's time for us to kind of take a step back and let this thing grow organically and just aim small to start with and know that it's just gonna grow a little bit year by year. That's just an approach that we're gonna have to make a decision on. But-
Well, but we also can't make decisions on what other towns are doing and when they're doing it.
Right.
Because that was also the suggestion that was made. Well, Indian Trail is having an event, we shouldn't have had an event the same day.
Well, and the nothing,
Everybody's gonna have an
in all
event.
fairness, the Nothing Bundt Cake folks didn't qualify to even be on site. They were a bronze level sponsor, and no bronze sponsor was offered a spot at Eford except for them. And the only reason I let them come is because they were selling cakes. And I thought, I've got an ice cream person, but my funnel cake lady's gonna bail out early to go to Wingett's. Winget had a festival also. So I thought, if you wanna come sell some cakes, sell some cakes. I'm not guaranteeing you anything. You're technically not even a high enough sponsor to be on site, but I'll make an exception for you. So, we also relocated her tent halfway through the day to help increase her sales. She did not like her spot. We thought it was a great spot. She was under the patio and she was right by the playground. We thought kids would be begging for cakes.
Yeah, I was just saying that for perspective purposes, not.
No, I know. I'm just kind of stating that in her case, and maybe I'll just make sure Bob is aware that, we tried to accommodate her as much as we could for the fact that she was a bronze sponsor to begin with. So, but I agree. I think maybe less food trucks, maybe just having 2, and they're there all night. If we do just a late afternoon, evening portion of Marvin Day, and we cut out the whole day, I think it would alleviate the need to have food trucks during the day, and then those leave, and ones come in at night. I think that's a nightmare. I'd rather just have a shorter event with 2 trucks and see what happens.
There's a lot of great suggestions and a lot of things that happened, and I think we're on course to fixing those things. I'm not concerned with anything that happened this weekend. I got to be honest with you. This is only our second year, and really, if you really want to peel the onion back, this was our first year in a location we have no idea. I mean, we have people that walked in there that have never seen Eford Park before. So that's a success. Staff did an amazing job of putting all of this together. But let's take several steps back and let's look at our marketing plan. And I'm not here to make fixes right now. I'm just saying, when do we start marketing? How do we market? Where do we market? When do we market? Because that in and of itself drives, okay, because then we can fix parking situation. We're going to iron that out. I have no doubt we're going to iron out location. I was a fan of Eford Park. I think if this is going to be an annual event, we can control Eford Park. We can't control the schools. And the schools are always going to give us a reason why they can't. And that includes elementary, middle, whatever. But if we have Eford Park Week, we're going to figure out the parking situation. And once we figure out marketing and parking, the food vendors and all of these other suppliers, and I think we've got great suggestions on condensing some of it, great suggestion on the 5K. We're going to put all this stuff together where it's going to continue to be a great event. It was a great event. We still brought people in that never saw Eford Park. We still brought people in that really had no idea about Marvin. I think you have a great question. What do we want to? Who do we want to target? What do we want to be? And we can always add and we can always take away. I'm of the ilk. Hunter and I had a great conversation yesterday. What can we add that makes it more of an event without burdening the event? I'd like to see a Marvin Day golf tournament Does it have to be on Saturday? It should never be on Saturday. Maybe it's on Friday. That promotes Firethorn. Firethorn, are they going to be up for that? I don't know. The one thing I would say is, like with Firethorn, I blame Firethorn a lot for promoting it. I live in Firethorn. I'm a member of Firethorn. I didn't see anything. I didn't get anything on it. So I'm sorry that they did that, and I feel bad for them. But some of this is we can put back on them. It shouldn't be put back on staff, on the volunteers or anyone else for that not being successful. So I think we're on a great path. I can't thank the volunteers and staff. We pulled off a huge event like this with 5 people of staff. And then because they rounded up all the volunteers, and we've got Deb, but you've got so many people that want to make this a success, and we just need to appreciate that point of it and appreciate the people that did come in. And listen, we're gonna have disgruntled people. Again, I tell people, you give people $1 million and they're gonna complain they have to pay taxes on it. So let's look at the positives, let's correct some of the things that we can change, and move it forward. And I have no reservation or doubt that next year's going to be, we're going to have marketing, parking, location, we're going to have all those things ironed out. This was our first year of Beaufort Park. Mm-hmm. Second year, but really first year. Mm-hmm. We can make it much better. Not to say that it was a failure or it was bad this time. We did a damn good job of what we were able to take on this year. So I do have to run, but I think great ideas and great dialogue here. I mean everyone wants this to be a success, and thanks for everyone being here, and thanks staff. I can't thank you guys enough. Not just for Marvin Day, but you guys are rock stars, and you pull it all together and make everyone else look great. So thanks. I've got to run, but
Thank you.
that's my 2 cents worth. Thanks for crashing our meeting. I'm trying to make up for my.
For not
I'm
being
trying-
at council.
Which, by the way, I was at Eford Park helping put the dunk tank up
I
because
told
I didn't
them.
want you to miss being dunked.
No, I mean, I definitely agree with Councilman Line too about the marketing. It's one of those things where we just, as a council and as the PRG board, everybody needs to get on the same page as far as who are we targeting, because there's been some back and forth of we want to target Marvin residents, or do we want to, I know Bob's really big on, I want to be inclusive, not exclusive, and I want to invite everybody that we possibly can. And we certainly can do that. I think we've proven with Trick or Treat that if we blast this all over Union County, the people will come. So we did not do that this year because we weren't sure how the shuttles will be received. But if everybody feels that the shuttles were not a problem, and if we maybe double the shuttles, we would be good, then we can certainly blast it out all over Union County and invite people to come to Marvin and Marvin Day, and it could be incredible.
When is this committee meeting again?
This one, I don't believe is meeting again.
I know you had some planned for the rest of the year.
So we meet after every PRG meeting. You guys have set your schedule through
Okay.
December. So you will meet the first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m.
At some point, don't you think that we should
Dissolve and
reassess?
dissolve?
Yeah, reassess who's on it, and then,
You guys are the council, you can set the membership.
So
oh,
we can,
okay, I'll
we
make
can
that
do,
decision.
we can do another appointment for 24.
Mhm.
I don't, did they do expiry dates or anything?
You guys did not set terms.
Okay.
That was not discussed.
We can
just have to pull people off and put people on.
We can discuss that at the next meeting and redo for 2024. But I would just encourage this group to really kind of take back some of those questions. Who are we targeting? What's our focus? What are we planning on doing, so that we could provide a recommendation for council to consider?
Well, that was going to be my question is, Jill's question is excellent one, and one we've kind of gone back and forth on even in planning this one, is who are we marketing to? And for the other events as well, because Bob Nunnenkamp is, we should try to focus on the people we want to try to annex and make it bigger, and then I think there's even been some discussion of bigger than that. So we need a consensus on that so that Tyler and, everybody has direction, and then we also need a consensus on what is the point of Marvin Day? Is this a community event the village of Marvin is providing entertainment for, is simply providing entertainment for the community to get together? Is this a vendor event? Like, what is our, so, and everybody needs to get, I guess, sit with their feelings, figure out what our individual views are, but how do we build that, how do we collect that information and decide what the general consensus is such that going forward, whatever the committee looks like has some direction. So where do we come up with that? Do we
I think she's,
do a survey?
you're trying to say something.
Yeah, did I cut you off, Kim?
No, you're fine. But I wanted to ask a question before we got too far down
I'm
your
sorry.
road. No, you're fine. Do the people that are on this committee now want to be on this committee again next year?
I do.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, all right. No, but Derek was.
We're down Derek.
But Derek was, which means Matthew. You in? Obviously Tyler's gonna be on it. So we're gonna need to add Matthew and Tyler. So we can just put that on our consent agenda because we need to get Derek off and put our new fellas on there. And if Jen and Deb are good staying on there and Jill wants to stay on there, then
Would you want your public works director on there?
yeah, I mean, we don't have one yet, so until we do, it depends on who it is.
Is there like a guideline for how many, well, the funny thing is, I actually think it says in our personnel policy that staff can't be on committees, which is funny, but is there a guideline for how many that we should?
Well, I
Because
mean,
right now, we would have 3 of us already making up half of the committee.
but I mean, guys were already on there before.
I know, I don't think we noticed it in the fine print until after we'd already,
It's fine. It's not like it's PRNG. It's
yeah, it's
fine.
advisory.
Okay, so at that point, then we will continue this meeting every Tuesday after Parks Rec and Greenway. So it'll be a standing meeting, just make sure it's on everybody's calendar. And I think we can sit with our thoughts to figure out between now and our next meeting, what do we want it to be?
I have a question for Tyler, actually, when you're done.
Who do we want this to go to?
Yeah, who do we want this to go to, where do we want it to go? And actually, point of order, yeah, it's really important to know who's going to be making that decision.
Right.
So if it's the same group of people, then we'll,
Yeah.
reconvene and
Yeah, we'll just put that on we'll put that on the
make that our
council's
item number 1.
consent agenda, and then we can, okay, all right.
And then you all can make a recommendation to cancel at the August meeting? And
Yep.
they can
Yeah.
discuss it.
Yeah,
And we can get PRG's input at the meeting before that next
Yep.
one, so.
I don't know what you're getting ready to say, but I do have 2 more things
Okay.
to throw at them. I don't know if now's appropriate or.
Yeah.
Just food for thought when you're in your thoughts. I did receive a complaint on the fireworks from Walden Pond. I knew this was going to happen. It's probably not the first complaint that we're going to get, so I'm just letting you know in advance. Apparently, there's a gentleman over there that had a lot of fallout into his pool. He's apparently going to let the HOA know. We've gotten the fire marshal involved. The vendor has come out to try to remediate the situation. It's all been resolved, but I'm sure this is not the last time we're going to hear about it, just FYI. The second concern I just wanted to mention, as you're in your thoughts, is that I do have a little bit of heartburn over our reliance of volunteers, because we were kind of scrounging around making sure, well, not just that, but making sure we had coverage for people. We did find people maybe left their site more before they were supposed to, and we didn't necessarily know or have someone to fill it. So it's just, I do have a little bit of heartburn over not having adequate staff to cover stations as need be. So I'm just letting that out.
okay, can you explain more? Because I thought the volunteers did a great job that showed
Yeah,
up.
the volunteers with the schools did really good. We were really excited about that. But we did, at the last minute, we were trying to find people that wanted to help with parking or whatever. We had a list.
So it was more the blue list
Yes.
that
Yeah.
weren't showing up versus the.
Or they wanted their assignments redone.
Okay, all right.
So
Well,
it's-
that's a whole nother story. Okay, so
The people that were assigned to help with parking and shuttles and safety, a lot of them
Just
they
didn't wanna
left
do it.
early. So Marcus and Tyler were left holding the bag, which is why we had to pull you in. So, and that was a very important volunteer position with safety, getting the people out in the shuttles. So I think we just
Well, there
need
was-
to
Yeah, and there was
massage
other
that a
parts
little
too,
bit.
just
Yeah,
not
other
just that.
parts.
So just
Okay.
a couple moving parts to it.
Okay, well, but I'm also trying to gather feedback from Beta Club, the Boy Scouts.
They did great.
Okay, because,
It's really just those key positions. Those,
Yeah.
those kind of ancillary things, that was great. That process worked out good.
okay, I thought so too. And did we happen to keep the check-in list to see if anybody didn't show up? Because I've had the Beta Club advisor emailing and just seeing how they did. If not, it's not a big deal.
I don't know that we did.
Okay, it's fine. It's not a
I
big
don't know
deal.
that we did.
Okay, so but that's a whole, that is a whole nother thing of, don't volunteer your family members or your children unless they're gonna commit to it. It is. And
Yeah.
that's it is, and that's a conversation that we'll have.
Yeah, my own
As
kids were a
counsel.
complete pain in the butt.
Yeah,
So I
so
get that. I volunteered them.
That's
I,
an in-house volunteer issue.
that is a, we need to have that conversation amongst
Yeah.
ourselves, and we will have that. I will have that.
what I wanted to ask Tyler, but I'll wait. I want to make sure you're done. You're good.
I'm good.
Hold on, are you less heartburny if we have this conversation?
Yes, but I do think we need to. set
And no?
clear- Yes and no. I think we need to set clear expectations out and make sure that they're understood, they're heard, and that they're followed, so.
Got it. Okay, we can do that. I feel like that's an easy iron out, kind of.
I think too, if we decide to condense Marvin Day, it's a little bit less overwhelming to serve from 3 to 6 and a different crew from 6 to 9:30 than it is to be 3 to 11 on your schedule, you know? So hopefully that helps people commit. So PRG, and I just think it's good practice, Tyler, I'm sure you've done this before doing events, but they really want us to send out a survey. I would like to utilize Austin's residence list to push the survey out, but also post on social media, just asking people in the community, I don't want to be the one who comes up with the list of questions. I probably can, but I'm assuming maybe, Tyler, that you've done these surveys in the past where we just ask people, you know, whatever you would ask post-event, like, did you attend? Yes. If no, why not? And if that's it, then you're done, your survey's over. But if you did attend, it would go on to a series of questions like, which events, you know, please rank them, or what did you like and not like? I think we really need to be polling the people that come, because we can have all kinds of ideas about what we think is fabulous, and other people might be like, I hated that. And if that's the consensus, then we need to maybe take that feedback in. So I believe we should kick out a survey like this fast, because it's fresh in people's minds, and I think we need to collect this data. So I don't know if that's something you can take on, Tyler, but if we can use like a Survey Monkey or something to come up with some questions. And I don't really, does the committee think they need to review the survey before we send it out, or can you trust like Tyler, myself, and Christina to take a peek at
We
it?
just want feedback. We just want
Just want
feedback.
feedback.
We're not trying to implement anything.
No,
We literally
just
just
some
want some
feedback.
feedback.
Because these people might, you know, be like, the shuttles were absolutely horrible, don't ever do that again. Then we'll have to rethink Eford Park, right? But if the bulk of the people were like, I thought the shuttles were
rethink
convenient and
everything.
great, then great.
Yeah.
But anyway, if we could get that created soon and looked at by myself and Christina and posted on social and sent out to residents, I think I would love to give a deadline for them to respond. But let's try to collect that data so we have something to show at the next PRG meeting and something to actually chew on at our next subcommittee meeting. Is that good?
You want to have it back and the results back before then?
Yeah.
That's a month from now, right? It's 30 days? Yeah, I would say, I don't know how long it would take to create it, but if we can get it out next week and give people 2 weeks to kind of respond, then we'll have a week to kind of marinate on that data and make, one, summarize it for PRG, and then two, talk, when's your next newsletter going out?
Third Friday of the month, my recommendation is hit at least 2 newsletters, so you're gonna get more people.
So it goes out this Friday?
I send it out the first and third Fridays. I can do a standalone email too, but
Just
When's
do
the
it-
next one going?
Do a standalone email to get the first one out and add it to the third Friday.
16th is the third Friday. So I can do a standalone email this Friday if we have it ready, and I can do a newsletter on the 16th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
At the top of the newsletter, so people aren't complaining.
And if it
that it's
can't be ready by
buried.
this Friday, we can do a standalone next Friday and then the newsletter the fall.
Newsletter 16th,
Is the 16th next Friday already? Oh, crap, okay.
One thing I'll just throw out there and mention to you real quick, it's kind of weird, but kind of cool in the same sense. There's a augmented, not augmented reality, there's a app called Placer, AI, it's AI, that basically tracks people that come to events, where they're coming from, how many people are there, and where they go. I don't know how it knows, but I guess it tracks your cell phone. So, kind of Big Brother-esque.
Is it disturbing and useful
It is
all at the
disturbing,
same
yeah.
time?
But I have a couple of friends that are using it, and they're using it for their event, so they can kind of figure out what they can do for the future. I'm just throwing it out there if y'all want to look into it. It's definitely something that we would need to look into at a staff level to add to our kind of
List of
ideas.
stuff you have to do,
Say again?
list of stuff, add to your
Yes.
list of stuff you have
But
to
it would be
do.
kind of cool to look at that.
Sure.
Before we close, I would love any opinions, because I get asked this a lot, and I know this is going to come up as we're seeking sponsors, but does anyone have an idea or a ballpark of how many people they think came to Marvin Day at Eford Park
I mean, I think over 1,000
all day?
all day, yeah,
Anyone else
yeah.
have a different opinion? You think it was more, you think it
I
was
don't know,
less?
Hunter rolled his eyes and so did Christina.
If I had to throw a number, I would say 300 throughout the day, and then 100 at
No
night.
way.
That would be mine, but
I was gonna say like anywhere from 500 to 750 throughout the day,
Okay,
be 150, 200 at night.
Yeah, there weren't that many at the concert. But
Okay.
most vendors were gone then, so when was the time that the sponsors and the vendors were there?
11, they were there.
No, I know,
by-
but that's what I'm saying, that's when the most people were there.
Right.
So that's what they want to know.
So if we were to combine the attendance at the 5K with the park, then we could tell people we had over 1,000 people. Okay. Everybody feel good about that number?
I mean, I think it's accurate. I don't think
Okay.
it's wrong.
Yeah.
I just don't think all those people were there at one time, but I think throughout
Right.
the day, I think that's what we had. And is there a place for people to see race results?
Yeah, it's already been emailed out to all attendees, and it's already posted online, as well as every race photo. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Speak now or forever hold your peace,
Or at least until the next meeting.
or at least until our next meeting. All right, is that it? Okay, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn our meeting. Adjourn. Did I say that weird? I did, didn't I? All right, motion to adjourn. Is that right? Adjourn. I give up. Motion to end this meeting, friends.
So
Need-
moved.
Aye.
Aye.